Shalom, Kol Halal, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, and the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. This is not a black thing or a color thing. All right, and to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago, coming at you another lesson in truth. And just something real quick before I get into the lesson I want to share. I have a subscriber or someone who watched the video named Christy Joy. And either yesterday or the day before, I went back and started reading the comments. I try to go back and, see if there's anything in a comment that I need to address. Or, there's always a scoffer, and some people, the true, sincere people, they'll leave scriptures or they'll, say something positive and, and I shalom the people and acknowledge them. But this Christy Joy person pointed out that in the subtitles, it puts like a blank with asterisks on the end, or inside of it look like blank spaces, and I forget what you call them, and parentheses on the end, and a blank space every time you say the name Yahweh or Yahweh Shai, so that if you're reading the see if you can't hear, or you're trying to be silent and you're trying to read along with what's being said, every time it got to the name of the Father and the Son, there's a blank there so that it wouldn't be said or read. So, just another clever device that Edom uses to try to, to keep that name out of the world, and which is futile because it's useless, So I just thought I'd share that. Eventually, I'm going to, I screenshotted it now. The Lord's will, when I'll do a lesson, I'll bring it out and show that, in the lesson. But on to today's lesson. And I'm going to start with Matthew. This is an AI overview of a question or a statement that I wrote. And then this is an AI overview of it. And it was live by the sword and die by the sword. All right. And it said, this is a proverb derived from the Gospel of Matthew, meaning that those who use violence to achieve goals will most likely be met with violence in return. And America, everything that it has, and especially the Edomites, that's, the people who refer to themselves as white or Caucasian, not only here in America, but around the world, everything that they have, they achieve by violence in every land where they are. When they took Europe from the Japhetic, from the melanated, brown-fleshed Japhite, the real Greeks, and started calling themselves Grecians, started calling themselves Romans, started calling themselves by the names of those people that lived in that land. All right, they intermingled and mixed in with them and lightened them up, etc., etc. But they took it by great violence at the edge of the sword. All right. As a matter of fact, Matthew 26:52 is in there. So it says the verse of Matthew 26:52 states, then said Yahweh Shai unto him, put up again thy sword into his place, for all they that take up the sword shall perish with the sword. I wonder what version that is. But that's what, that's what it said. And that was referring to Peter when he took the ear off the Roman soldier, and Yahweh Shai picked his ear up and put it back on him, and healed him, put his ear back on. Which, as we stated, that means that Peter was very proficient with the sword, which makes sense when you understand and know who Peter is. That he would take a sword and hack downward onto a man's face and take only his ear off, and not put the sword deep into his collarbone and break his collarbone and have him, blood squirting out of his arteries in his neck, because that took great skill to do that. You know, it was like a warning, like you don't want this. You know, said, I took your ear. Do you want me to take your life? There's really is a lot said to what happened in there in that scripture that's not said. All right, he was very proficient with a sword, clearly. All right. It says meaning then you see it's a warning about the consequences of choosing aggressions and violence, suggesting that what goes around comes around, and this is very true. So America, Esau, Edom, whether they're in Australia, whether they're in Sweden, because they're not the people of Swedes. They took over Europe. All right. All you have to do is read Ben Franklin's letter from 1751. And it talks about all the brown people, all the melanated, swarthy people that were in Italy, Spain, Sweden, all those different parts. And all the relics that are left there, that go back to the medieval time and to the Dark Ages. All the relics of black people on castles, and or should I say melanated, swarthy people. Only said black because people are ignorant and don't know that But yeah, so there's been a lot of lies told, and now the truth is being told. As a matter of fact, before I start playing this, let me go grab another scripture. Let me go to Genesis, the book of Genesis. It's 27, around 39, 40. Yeah, at the time of the blessing. All right, because Esau is a thief and a murderer. And, Christian churches have taught that Isaac stole Esau's blessing, which is a complete and total lie. Esau tried to steal a blessing that was no longer his. And I've often used the example of a house, or the example of a car, right? If you owned a car or you owned a horse, right, and you sold that horse, okay? As a matter of fact, instead of explaining it, let's go back to the beginning. Before I read 27, let's go back to 25. When Esau and Jacob was born. It's been a while since I read that, so let's go ahead and read it. Yep, so let's Salakia. I'm just color coding these scriptures. I like to do that. All right, so I'm going to start at verse 19 and read all the way through to, this is Genesis 25, and read all the way through 30 to break this down. All right, and it says, Genesis 25 and 19, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old. And when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian, all right, so that, so she was a Syrian one, proved the people in Syria were melanated. They were brown-skinned, swarthy people. Not, very dark, just as dark as Africans, just as dark as some of those dark Indians in the land of India, in Elam's land. All right, okay? And none of them were Ish, or J-ish. Remember, J-ish is a hijack for Israelite, and Israelites were not on the scene yet until Jacob was born, and then Jacob's sons became the patriarchs, the Israelites. Okay, so keep that in mind. It's very important to know that. All right, and none of their wives were J-ish. J-ish people fabricate the lie that you are who you are according to your mother. They say this because as we're reading this, they cannot be traced back to Isaac, back to Abraham through their fathers. Okay, they cannot. What they can be traced back is the conversos that converted during the time of Herod. That was the first one, or the second major conversion, but that was the conversion of Edom. All right, when Edom began calling themselves J-ish. okay? Which is far in the future from what I'm reading right now, okay? But remember, Abraham, Isaac, nor Jacob were J-ish. That's something that didn't come about until the forced conversion of a sect, of a particular group of Idumeans during the time of Rome. All right, I mean, right before, that was during the time of the Rome, because Rome had risen up during the time of the Maccabees. They had dealings with the Romans. So anyway, it says, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, Syrian of Pandaram, and the sister of Laban, the Syrian. And Isaac, and she was a lot younger than him, clearly. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife, and because she was barren, Yahweh was entreated of him, and Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her. All right. And she said, is it to be so? Why am I thus? And she went to inquire of Yahweh, and Yahweh said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, 2 manner of people that shall be separated from thy bowels, and the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. The red one, the pink flesh one, all right, came out first. He's the elder, and he's definitely the weaker, okay? They never mention, it's going to mention the color of Esau. It never mentions the color of Jacob, because Jacob came out looking like everyone else on the planet at that time. All right. It says, and when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb, and the first came out red all over, like an hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Esau means wasted away as he. As a matter of fact, since I didn't prepare it on the screen, I'll just do it in my phone. See how many of these images that they've taken down. All right. So, red-faced newborns, red all over like a hairy garment. Red all over like a hairy garment. Okay? That is how Esau, whose name was changed to Edom, and that, my friends, that is the description biblically of the Edomite, is also the description biblically of leprosy. When you're a clean leper, when you're pale like that all over. All right. So Esau is really a clean leper. All right. They even changed the definition of leprosy, over time. Esau's done a lot to disguise and hide who they are. It says, and after this came out his brother. Hold on. It says, and after this came out his brother came out, and his hand took hold of Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when he bare them. And the boys grew together, and Esau was a cunning hunter and a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man dwelling in tents. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Isaac had more, he loved actually Esau, okay, because he did eat of his venison. He admired his son's prowess with the hunting, even though he wasn't the stronger. He was a mighty hunter, okay. It says, it says, and Jacob sought pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore his name was called Edom. All right. And Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. And Esau said, behold, I am at the point to die. What profit does this birthright have me? So this undisciplined, murderous man forsook the kingdom of heaven, which was the birthright. All right. Which was actually planned in heaven. It was already planned that the first would serve the younger. So he wasn't acting on his own accord. The Lord is the one who put the spirit on him to say what he said. All right. We have to understand that, because he didn't want Esau to. Look at what Esau's done with this current evil world. Look at the water, the food, the skies, the trees, the earth, the soil, the people. Okay. It says, and Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright. All right. So Jacob Jacob received the birthright from Isaac through verbal agreement, through a promise. Okay. Then it says, Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage of lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus he despised his birthright. So Jacob gave Esau this half-cooked, bloody meat with lentils in it and bread. Esau likes to order their steak rare. They like steak tartare. They like medium rare. They still eat it like that to this day. It's in their nature. There are all types of videos on the internet, on YouTube, on every platform of Edomites eating raw meat or very undercooked meat. They throw it on the 4 or 5 minutes on each side, and the middle of it is still bloody. They cook the outside. All right. That's the nature of an Edomite, and they still eat that way to this day. All right. So fast forward to Genesis 27. It says, and Isaac, this is 27 and 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and shalt serve thy brother. And shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, and thou shalt break the yoke off his neck. So Esau was a servant unto Jacob through the time of King David and Solomon. And after that, he broke the yoke. And Esau rose up and came into the power the first time in his existence through Alexander of Macedon, the Amalekite. And so the so-called white man came into power via the sword. Alexander went throughout Asia and North Africa, the ancient world, slaughtering and conquering all the swarthy, dark people, all the nations that were all throughout Western Asia, what you call the Middle East and Europe, and all throughout Eastern Asia, Central and Eastern Asia. He pretty much, most of Central Asia. He didn't really go that far east to the far, far east until much later. All right. And it says, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherein his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, because Esau tried to go in there and take the blessing, which was no longer his. All right. The whole example of the used car, or the selling of the house, the selling of the horse. So now the day comes when and then you try to go in and claim a property that you no longer own. That's wickedness. But it says, and Esau hated Jacob of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning my father are at hand. Then I will slay my brother Jacob. And the words of Esau, his elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and Jacob of the younger son, and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau is touching thee, doth comfort him, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. And he's been trying to kill Jake ever since, and basically everyone else in the world. All right, and he's tried to, and now he wants to just completely rule and dominate over the remnant of Jacob that's left. All right. So, without any further ado, Edom is still living by the sword. So let's play a few minutes of this video with Danny Halfong. And it said, Trump's war detonates Yemen missiles, hit Israel, IDF attacks Gaza, So this war is back on. For when they say peace and safety, we know that the end is now around the corner. Because these events in Western Asia and the events in the Far East and the China Sea, are going, and what's going on in North Africa, the Valley of Jehoshaphat is going to draw the whole world into it. They're already involved. Lines are being crossed, sides are being chosen, and most of the nations are coming against the whore, the whore that rides upon the beast. In Babylon, the beast is turning on the whore. NATO and the EU is falling apart, separating from America, and American allies are joining together to be against America, and fastly from Trump's policies.
Is when Israel signed the so-called ceasefire brokered by the U.S., Yemen paused its operations in the Red Sea. And they said, okay, the genocide has stopped. Our operations in the Red Sea will stop. Because again, they're not just recklessly attacking countries for no reason. It was part of an attempt to stop the genocide. When Israel announced that it was reinitiating the genocidal siege on Gaza to prevent all food and medicine and aid from going into Gaza, then Yemen reinitiated these operations to try to end the siege on Gaza, the genocidal siege, which violates international law. So it's actually Yemen that has been acting in a responsible way in support of human rights, whereas we see that the US and Israel are doing the opposite of supporting human rights. They're committing genocide. And of course, it's no surprise that Trump is continuing this. It was, of course, Joe Biden and the Democrats who oversaw this when it started in 2023. But it doesn't surprise me at all, because when Trump was running for president, he gave speeches for pro-Israel groups, and he argued absurdly, insanely. Trump claimed that the Democrats were anti-Israel. And he famously, in his only debate with Joe Biden, when we saw that Biden's brain didn't work, in this debate, he's so crazy and so anti-Palestinian that Trump referred to Biden as a Palestinian, as an insult. Yeah. And now he refers to Chuck Schumer, someone who, as a Palestinian. Chuck Schumer has never been pro-Palestinian in any way. He's only ever been pro-Israel. So, I mean, it's not surprising me at all, to me at all, that Trump is continuing this. But what it shows is that, the U.S. government is not a democracy. It is an empire, an imperialist authoritarian regime, in which the only thing that the U.S. government can do is wage nonstop war around the world. It is not a force for peace. It is not a force for human rights, and it never has been.
It never has been. It's a cynical, imperialist government, all right, which is really ruled over by the Edomites, and the whole Democrats and Republicans are just a distraction to make the people think that they have a voice, and they're the two wings on the same hateful, evil bird that's still holding down its prey with its sharp, wicked, sword-like talons and ripping the flesh from its prey, not even dead yet in most cases, with this sharp, razor-sharp, hooked beak, all right, mercilessly eating it alive. That is what America has done and continues to do. This is Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. And they covet fields, and they take them by violence, and houses, and they take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. The Israelis are doing this on a continuous matter. Now they're taking parts of Syria. So they're trying to do it all over Western Asia and going into North Africa. All right. It says, therefore thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family, the Edomites, do I devise an evil from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall you go haughtily, for the time is evil. In that day shall one take up a parable against you, and lament with a doleful lamentation, and say, we be utterly spoiled. He hath changed the portion of my people. How hath he removed it from me? Turn it away. He hath divided our field. So Edomites are on the internet crying about all that they've lost. There's a video that I watched with my beloved brother, my armor bearer Asha, with this Edomite that was crying, red-faced, crying his eyes out about the business that he built for 25 years to leave to his son, Arthur Jr., and his other son, all right, so that they make their lives easier and so that they wouldn't have to work so hard and, to make it, to basically, to trying to keep his posterity through his family going. He's selling it and he's bawling and crying, all because of what? Trump policy. And that's been the case when you go back to the C19 thing and all the truth that's coming out about, related to the fraud and the lies behind that. Same thing happened. The destruction of the middle class by their own brethren, by their own people. Okay? And, Esau is a bloody murderer who his descendants today have such a hard time accepting that truth. A lot of them are in denial. Hence the reason why so many people come against CRT, which it shouldn't be CRT. It should be CRH, critical race historical history, or critical race historical facts. Like and subscribe.
Because it can be absolutely soul crushing to try to come to terms with. Like I said, it's like finding out that your parent is the BTK killer. How do you process that? Most people would just reflexively deny horrible realities because they've already built their whole life around the assumption that the reality that they live in is not horrible. You've been drinking blood your whole life thinking it's cherry Kool-Aid. The torch of the Statue of Liberty isn't a guiding light, it's an arsonist's weapon. That's what burned down villages in Vietnam. That's what set fire to Iraq and to Afghanistan. And that's what lit burning crosses all over America.
Exactly. All right. The destruction of all the Negro, the swarthy towns that the Negroes built up post-slavery all across America, living and was forced to live separately by racist Edomite policy. And when these Edomites saw that all these black neighborhoods were prospering, these black towns were prospering, they set out to go read about and learn about the Red Summer of 1919 and what happened in the 1910s and the 1920s and all the drowned towns. I believe there's over 15 of them, towns that they flooded out and destroyed black prosperity and made lakes over them, and they built luxury homes around those lakes right over the bones of those people. The Black Belt here in Chicago, when they, a neighborhood in Chicago where black people had their own banks, grocery stores, schools, etc., living, autonomously. But see, that's the thing. It wasn't time for Jake to be living that way. They're still under the curses. That's why they lost it all. And like Elder, our beloved Elder Apostle Tahar said, Jake, built up all this stuff that most don't even know about. All right, Elaine, Arkansas, Rosewood, the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then those, I forget the name of the places down in the Carolinas. All these places that were doing much better than what white people had ever done at post-slavery. And they rose up out of jealousy, anger, and hatred and destroyed them. Confiscated the lands, the banks, the money that was in the banks and everything, the houses that were left. It all. So that means the judges, everybody was involved in it. The lawyers, the judges, the law enforcement, the sheriffs. They collectively took that wealth, took those houses, those homes, those acres of land, and divided among themselves. This is what Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, did with that torch. He said that arsonist weapon, that light of the Statue of Liberty, all right, which was a weapon of the so-called white man. Okay? This is what he did to covet fields and take them by violence. All right, as he gave up his birthright. And now he's starting to be the victim of his own folly. Now that the return is coming, that the recompense is upon him, he wants to cry and scream he's a Christian, and and Christians for Jesus, for Earth Pig, knowing that that's not his name. They know that that's not his name, and they push it. All right. Well, and there's no prayer, there's no hope for them. This is Hebrews 12:16. And it reads, lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau, who for one morsel of meat sold his birthright, going back to his rise to power. All right. His rise to power was temporal, because if you keep reading in Genesis 27, he was promised this present earth, and that he would have the best parts of it, and that he would live by the sword. And boy, did he live by the sword. He used that blessing. And now we're at the end of it, where the blessing is being removed for him because his sword isn't the greatest sword anymore. Or actually, his sword is about to be turned on himself. All right, via his brothers, the Russians over there, because they too are Edomites that are in the land of Japhet. They're not actually Japhet, as some people fraudulently and falsely and incorrectly teach. Because they're it's a house divided. So it's not Japhet destroying Esau in the end, it's Esau destroying Esau in the end. The Lord. So that alone, come on, man. Hebrews 12 and 17. For ye knew that how afterward he would have been inherited the blessing, he was rejected, for he found no place of repentance, though he sought it carefully with tears. So all you crying Edomites out there, you can cry and pray to Earth Pig. There is no hope for you. There is no hope for you. Earth Pig, G, Earth, Sus, Pig is not coming to help anybody. Once again, G, Pig, all right? G, Earth, Sus, Pig. Earth Pig is not coming to help anyone. All right? So with that, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kodash, Kwam Yasharala, Abad Babal.